So, you're in the market for a new headset? There's too many options. Well, this is the review for you. Now, I have tested over the last 2 weeks 3 headsets in particular. I get all of them fitting into rated as some of the best sounding wired headsets and wireless of 2020 and 2021. And just thought I would share some of my thoughts because it can be a little bit tricky, especially if you do live in Australia. There aren't too many stores that really allow you to try them all on, considering I suppose the COVID pandemic and all. However, I had actually come from a previous headset. I think it was the Razer Krakens from about 2014. So it'd been quite a while since I had bought a headset. So I got a good 6 years or so out of those ones. They lasted, but they have started to sort of fall apart on me with especially the ear cups and the headband, and I thought it was time for an upgrade. So in doing so, I initially bought the Turtle Beach 7 the Turtle Beach 700 Stealth Gen 2. Now, this headset in particular, this was my first Turtle Beach headset, so I hadn't really used them before to really compare anything, but I was blown away by the sound in this thing. Now, I will say I do prefer my content when it comes to audio equipment. I do like a bit of a bass. I do like a bit of bass. I like a bit of a punch. You know, I want to hear that explosion go off in that movie or that game, whatever it is. Now, in saying that, with the brief time that I did own this headset, I'll get to that later. I had tested the bass. The bass was just amazing. The mids were, I would say, uh, over average. I'd give them maybe like a 7 or 8 out of 10, depending on, I guess, your personal sort of opinion. The highs did suffer in some departments, but they're by no means bad. They sounded quite good. Um, but overall, I was quite the weakest thing about the headset I would say is probably the treble. Treble wasn't as good as what I was hoping for in a if you live in Australia, about a $250 headset. Um, but the cool thing about this headset is it's cross-compatible between a few different devices. Now, it's got Bluetooth, I think it's 4.0 built into it, so you can connect that right up to your smartphone, or if you've got a tablet or something like that, you can use that, which is really interesting. Probably wouldn't use it for gaming. I think there is some latency, but for movie watching or music, it's pretty cool. But that's what's interesting about this headset. You can actually stream the Bluetooth connection from one device while also relying on the connection from either your Xbox or PC via the Microsoft Windows adapter that it comes with. Well, in saying that, I did have to go out and buy the adapter for an extra $30, but definitely if you want to use it for with a computer, you have to have that adapter. Would not recommend using Bluetooth on PC anyway. But in saying so, the connection between the Xbox was really good. The connection with the PC was, I would say, in the initial week of owning it, was superb. But there were faults, there were issues, which I'll get into a little bit later. But the first thing that I did with this headset was I fired up Dolby Atmos. I think it was $20 on sale, and I essentially set up a good sound profile with that, and I ended up watching a few titles on Netflix in the 5.1 surround sound, and it blew me away. I watched the old, I think it's the 2007 King Kong movie. That by far had the best sound of any of the movies I tested. It was just the rumblings of the dinosaur when it was leaning up, sort of, towards the blonde woman. I forgot the actress's name, but the screams as well within the movie were quite lifelike, and even the scene where the dinosaurs and the King Kong sort of ape, they fall through this sort of ravine into these vines, sort of this jungly area, and you can hear the cracks within the branches. You can hear the birds going around you in surround sound. It's an unbelievable experience, and I was particularly impressed with that movie. It just sounded amazing. I also tested Oblivion with Tom Cruise in it, and that was a really good movie to test as well, especially whenever it came to the drone sounds, making those big obnoxious noises, or the firing of their plasma weapons in that movie, to even like the base of the artificial intelligence in that movie. Spoilers. And then I also tested Pacific Rim, and that movie was definitely a bit more muddied in terms of sound, but in the scenes where these big giant mechs were hammering into these kaiju, you definitely felt the punch of the bass. You felt the precise audio, even to the point where uh, the AI that was in the kaiju sort of saying like, "Oh, oxygen is low," or whatever the AI said. You could actually hear that on almost like a different channel, kind of like the rest of the movie was playing on your left and right ears, and then a bit behind you, and then that was speaking to you right in front of where you were looking, at a different pitch, which was just unbelievable. It felt like you were almost in one of these sort of Jaegers, which is really interesting that they can do that with sound. So that movie was also pretty cool. Now, when it comes to gaming, uh, I I tested it with a few games. The first one I really wanted to fire up was CS:GO, and with that, you get what you expect with CS:GO. I heard the enemy footsteps pretty well. Uh, Flashbangs were ear piercing. The bass was good when it came to explosions. And I would say overall, you could definitely use it for competitive gaming when it comes to something like CS:GO. Now, the next game I tested it in was Rainbow Six Siege, and in that game, this headset blew me away. It was amazing. Just the explosions on walls and things like that, the scattered pieces of debris, you could hear them sort of fluttering by your ear as you anticipated where the enemy was going to shoot you next. It was quite an amazing sort of test for me for that particular game. But you can also enable what they have. I think it's called superhuman hearing mode, which it's a little bit gimmicky, but look, it does its job. I used it in a few competitive matches that I played in. Definitely, it does. It sort of gets rid of a lot of the immersion that you traditionally have when you fire up this headset and load some, put some Dolby Atmos onto it. But I would say definitely I did hear footsteps clearer. I did hear things like windows being broken clearer. It just tended to muddy really everything else. But for competitive play, I think for some people it would definitely help. Okay, so the next game I actually tested on my console. Now, I have recently just bought one of the new Xboxes, the Series S, and I fired up Jedi Fallen Order and had this headset in. Now, I will say the audio quality on PC versus on headset, sorry, on PC versus on console is it's I would say it's almost exactly the same. I think it does sound slightly better on PC, but it's really not that much of a difference. But I guess that gets done over the wireless connection. But um, yes, I played Fallen Order, and that game sounded amazing. I did have to go into the settings and put on 7.1, and then go into the Xbox settings and turn on Dolby Surround to make sure everything was working and yeah, working properly. But after I'd done that, just the sort of vibrations that you would hear from the lightsaber and the force pushes and things like that, the bass you'd hear from that, and the high frequencies you'd hear from blaster pistols, it was just amazing. It definitely added another level of immersion to that game. Now, I have played this game on PC with my old Razer headset, and that headset sounds pretty good for what did I pay for it, like $70 or something like that. But this headset, it added another layer to that. Now, it was quite unbelievable how movie like it was. It was like a cinematic experience. I felt like I was at the cinema swinging my lightsaber around, hearing all these weird and unusual tones from creatures on different planets. Um, Now, when it comes to me recommending the Turtle Beaches, I I owned them for, I would say, about 2 weeks, and they were fine up until about that point where I started to get delays in my audio. It wasn't that noticeable at first, but then it was like once, and then twice, then three times, and then the fourth time, and then I started having longer and longer pauses. Not to mention connection issues with pairing them up. They would just disconnect sometimes, which I thought was really disappointing for a $250 headset. I expected, a little bit more out of that, which ultimately led to me returning them. Now, I think this could be fixed with, some firmware sort of updates. Um, It's I'd never had a problem with the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth connection was absolutely fine on my iPad and then on my phone. But definitely on the PC side of things, definitely cutouts, glitches, sort of lag. Um, it was quite unpleasant. But it's interesting that it only sort of happened after the 2 week period of me owning it. So I did end up returning them, and then I bought. After that, I decided to give the. Now we're going to wired headsets, so I mean, do with that what you will. But I thought, hey, maybe the wireless headsets just aren't there yet. I'll give a wired a go. You know, it's not that bad. So I went to HyperX, the HyperX Cloud Alpha S. Now, that headset in particular, I had been seeing been getting quite a lot of praise. It's essentially the HyperX Cloud 2s, just with a few improvements here and there. Slightly better sound. It's got some bass adjustment sliders on the side, which I think are quite gimmicky. I personally would just left them as is because you would lose the bass as soon as you adjusted them, which I thought was quite silly. But in terms of audio, this headset really puzzled me. Now, when I first plugged it into my PC to have a go, again with that 3.5mm headphone jack, um, I did plug it in with the sound card that it comes with, or that like adapter into the computer, and the 7.1 that comes with, it is a joke. It sounds horrible. Never, just do not use that. But uh, I didn't really focus on that too much. I tried to just focus on the clarity. Now, with this headset, the mids are amazing, the highs are amazing, but there is no bass. And it just really puzzled me how a headset, again, upwards of $180, had no bass. It just was, I was quite perplexed. But um, I think definitely if you're someone who's using your headset, maybe you're a musician and you need to hear a certain form or a certain point of clarity, this headset is definitely the one for you. It's ultra light, ultra comfortable. Um, but in terms of watching a movie or playing video games, I it definitely has the edge in perhaps like a competitive space if you really just are focusing on the footsteps that you need to hear or certain clicks or reload sounds. I think it does it well. But when it comes to anything, like I said earlier, I do prefer a little bit of bass. But there just isn't any, and the treble didn't seem very good either. So for me, I had the HyperX for a total of uh, little under 2 weeks, and it just was not at all what I had hoped it was. So I returned those, and this is all getting quite annoying now. So I'm onto my third headset, and I bought the Razer BlackShark V2 wired. Now I could have bought the wireless, but if I want wireless, I'm really sort of after something that works more so for my Xbox, so I can sit on a lounge and sort of sit away rather than my PC. I sit fairly close to my computer, so having a wire is really not a big issue. I really don't mind at all. Now this headset, this is the one I'm currently using now and recording this video. I know I don't have a dedicated microphone. I know, please be nice in the comments. But this headset really surprised me. Now, it's about $10 cheaper than the HyperX Alpha S. And, it's a lot cheaper than the Turtle Beaches, which are at $250. But the sound profile that you get out of this, when you open the box, you just plug them in. Again, make sure you use the USB sound card, because they honestly are not worth buying unless you're plugging them into a computer. But the sound profile on them was just, it was just lovely. It comes shipped basically right to you with this sort of profile that's just the way it's meant to sound. When I'm listening to music and things like that, it had a lovely sound. It nailed the mids, it nailed the highs. It was alright with some of the lows. The bass was there, but again, I do like a bit more bass in some of my headsets, which I know I might get a bit of hate for, but that's just my personal preference. But uh, there was still bass, not as much as the Turtle Beaches, but definitely still there. Now, the cool thing about your Razer products is you can get a lot of customization in the EQ settings and stuff like that, which I did, and I ended up boosting some of the bass in there to sort of get it to my liking. And I have got it at a range right now where it does sound the way I want it to sound. Again, not as good as the Turtle Beaches, but I think for 170, it sounds really good. In fact, I would go as far as to saying this is possibly the best headset Razer has released. It's ultra comfortable. It sort of just sits in your head a bit, and I mean that could be a combination of just how light it is. It's one of their lighter headsets that they've released. I can't give you the exact specifications because of how unorganized I am, but uh, it definitely is comparable to something like I would say, yep, very similar to the HyperX Cloud 2s. A little bit lighter than an airplane headset that they give. Sorry, a little like it's a little bit heavier than an airplane headset they might give you on a flight somewhere. But uh, the cups too, they have this like memory foam on them, which is which really just forms around your ears. The whole thing, in terms of having its clamp force, it's something of like a light to like a medium, somewhere in the middle there, and it just sits in your head really. It's quite comfortable. Now, the only problem I have with the ear cups is that they're a little bit rough for me. Now, um, they're not made of that pleather sort of material like the Turtle Beaches, and they're not made of that. I think the HyperX Alpha S also use a pleather-like material as well. But um, these they've got a bit of a rough material. It is like a foam sort of thing. I think it's a yeah, it is like memory foam, but um, definitely it's a little bit rough, but if that's a minuscule problem that I have with it, it's really not a big enough deal. But uh, definitely very impressed with the Black Sharks. The microphone on it is this is what you're listening to right now, so I'm not really giving you guys much of a choice. But the microphone definitely not the best microphone I've had. The microphone it's not as good as the HyperX microphone that I tested, which is a very similar microphone. It kind of you've got a bit of that sort of plug and unplug and plug sort of feature where you can just sort of take it out. It's got a little jack on the side of the headset. But the HyperXs, they sounded a little bit better. This sounds like I'd give this maybe like a 5.5 out of 10. I think it's average. I think it's okay. The HyperX, I'd give maybe like a 6, maybe a 6.5. It's just a little bit clearer. It doesn't muffle your voice as much, but they are a very similar kind of microphone. Now, the Turtle Beaches, the microphone on those was amazing. I'd give that like an 8 out of 10. After talking to my friends, they were telling me how clear I was on the Turtle Beach, and after playing around with sort of the listening to myself on that microphone, I just was really impressed by the overall, the audio quality of that microphone and the fact that you can swivel it up and it beeps and mutes itself automatically, and then you bring it down and it beeps and you know that the mic's not muted anymore. That's just a genius feature. I wish all headsets had that. Um, and that was just pretty good. So here I am now, sitting with my third pair of headset in the last, however many weeks it's been. And I am impressed. For $170, I'd say it's a very good headset. Um, Definitely more geared towards competitive play. Games like Rainbow and CS:GO sounded great, but when I plugged it, once you unplug it from the dedicated sort of sound card that it has into your computer, once you plug it into something like a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on like an Xbox, you definitely see a lack in quality. It's really not a console sort of headset. Now, in saying that, I did tweak the Dolby Atmos settings sort of to get it to a movie kind of cinematic experience, something a bit more bassy, but there's only so much you can do. And I will say, Dolby Atmos on this headset does not sound anywhere near the same as it did on the Turtle Beaches. The Turtle Beaches feel like they're made for that headset. Like, I don't know why I haven't seen more advertisements of Turtle Beach saying, try it with Dolby, because it's just magical. Games, movies, it's a lovely experience. Um, and the ear cups on the Turtle Beach, they don't warm up. They stay cool. They have that cool cooling gel in them, which is lovely. So, would I recommend this headset? Definitely. I'd say if you're a competitive gamer, you're gonna love it. It's gonna do everything you need it to do and a bit more. Especially if you like music. It does give a pretty, equal, pretty flat sort of sound all throughout, and it's accurate, definitely. I mean, I did tune the bass to get it a bit more to where I wanted on the bass, but it does the job. Now, here's where the review gets a little bit confusing. I would recommend, if you have a headset right now and it's not disintegrating on your scalp, if it's still functioning, I would recommend waiting a little bit longer to see if Turtle Beach can get get their stuff together and come out with a patch or an update that maybe stops it cutting out, or even revise all the units they've been pumping out. Maybe, try and fix the problem. Because honestly, I miss my Turtle Beach headset. It's just one of the greatest headsets. It was lovely. It had Bluetooth. It had the Xbox wireless functionality. It had USB-C. I wish every new headset had USB-C. But look, I would recommend waiting. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take 5 months, it could take 6 months, it could take a whole year, or Turtle Beach could just take the money and run. Who knows? But if they can fix it and fix the cutouts, the lag, and ensure that it functions as it's intended to, I'd give the Turtle Beach a 9 out of 10. It's the perfect headset if you're into music, movies, and games. It does all of I would say it's a jack of all trades. It does everything really well. Um, Now, I have been thinking about returning my Black Sharks. I'm not sure yet. They're pretty good, but again, for someone like me who likes a bit of music, likes a bit of movies, likes a bit of gaming, it doesn't meet all my requirements. So, if you're in a competitive play, Black Sharks will do you fine. If you want a little bit of jack of all trades, Turtle Beach. If you're doing music, doing high fidelity stuff, I would go the HyperX Alpha S. They're very good. But yeah, so this has been my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I just really wanted to vent a bit about my headset situation. So I'll see you later, guys.